Life with Lyme disease. It's something we all need to be aware of, and Tim Pilbeam has suffered with it for 20 years. For the last 2, we've been there for the highs and the lows.
Feeling really, it's so frustrating.
News Stumpathon. We had some of the best talent the British shooting show could muster, presenting on the Fieldsports Channel News Stump.
Stalking for stories, fishing for facts.
And students and pests. The Royal Agricultural University Cirencester is out after pigeons. We have news with the normal bloke, and we have hunting YouTube. Welcome to Fieldsports Britain. Tim is probably one of the most energetic people we know. Always happiest when there's a challenge to be had. He's positive, enthusiastic and cheery.
We'll make it, mate, we'll make it.
But then it changes.
You know, to start a day with lethargy and feeling really, it's so frustrating.
These symptoms are all because of a tick bite in Scotland 20 years ago. He is certain that was the moment he contracted Lyme disease, an infectious disease caused by the bacterium Borrelia.
I came back from Scotland and one morning I woke up going, "Ooh, there's something attached to my groin." I thought, "Oh, that's quite small." And I found this tick on my groin. And I thought, just squashed it and threw it in the bin, thought nothing of it. But as I took a closer inspection, I had a bullseye rash about that big on my inner groin. And thought, yeah, okay, that's fine. Did nothing about it at all. So that was 20 years ago. And over that 20-year period, things have happened.
My wrists and my elbows are really stiff and I just don't want to work. It's very hard work.
To help try and inform others about what it's like living with Lyme disease, Tim has been keeping a video diary.
If I move my head really quickly, the actual brain feels like it's actually kind of a second behind the rest of my body.
Anyway, a good day. I've been running for about an hour with some sprint training mixed up for my hockey match on Saturday. So anyway, a good day so far.
For more than 2 years, he's been recording the good, the bad and the ugly, the tests, the advice and his efforts to feel normal again.
I wake up in the morning and I just know that I'm going to probably have only 50% of my energy I normally have. So it's like memory fogging. You've got a thick head. You feel like you're kind of you're frowning. You're stressful. It almost feels like your brain's actually expanding and putting pressure on the back of your eyes. So that affects you kind of mentally. Moving on from there, sore eyes. My knees or my major joints will ache, but that ache will move around the body. One day it may be my knees, next day it's my wrists, or my elbows or my neck. It's like, really? My muscles. You know, I'm a sportsman and I ache because I play sport, and when you get older you get a lot more knocks and aches. But my muscles will ache as well. So once again it's like, really?
I've got a hockey game in about 15 minutes. I don't want to play. My head's pounding, I feel very tired. My knees have started to ache as well, which is really frustrating. I've got a really tough game out there. So physically I'm fine, but mentally, I just don't want to do it. Anyway, within about 15 minutes, I'll be absolutely fine by the time I get my blood up and get myself warmed up, but it's so frustrating.
Insomnia is a nightmare. Last night, for instance, for some reason, I couldn't go to sleep. I went to sleep at...
Seeing me.
It's like, oh, you know. So at 2 o'clock I went to bed because I couldn't sleep. So I eventually got to sleep at 2 o'clock. I was wide awake at 5. It's like, right, so my sleep patterns are completely turned upside down. So you have that fatigue coming from lack of sleep and also from your head feeling quite thick and horrible.
Just had a normal, very restless night, which I'm not too bothered about now because I get used to that. The worst thing is the cold sweat. Just woke up twice, absolutely soaking wet, very cold, and not very pleasant, and not particularly nice to get back into bed and try to go back to sleep again. But that's the way Lyme is.
Probably 10 years ago, I was in London with my wife, and we had a long weekend in London, and I was getting really excited for it. And I got on the train, got into Charing Cross, and I got out of the train, and I was absolutely exhausted. And I'm a fit guy, I play a lot of sport, and I was walking down the steps from Charing Cross to the Embankment, and I was exhausted, I was aching, I didn't want to be in town. And I thought, this is really bizarre, this just isn't right. You know, this is like a weekend we saved up for, wanted to go to see a show, I wanted to go home. I thought, right, that was the journey started right. There's something definitely wrong with this chap called Tim Pilbeam.
Just walked down the steps from Charing Cross to Embankment, and this is when it all happened. Anyway, memories have come flooding back this morning, but I feel really good today. Had a long weekend in London and on the way back home.
The NHS says that Tim doesn't have Lyme disease. His blood test was negative. He is Borrelia free. But that test has been shown to give false negatives and false positives.
And after a while I thought, I've got Lyme. Despite what the doctors think, I've definitely got Lyme. So I just kept on, I didn't think about it, accepted it a wee bit. But then over the last, between 5 and 10 years, he got worse and worse and worse. And probably about 4 years ago, I thought, hang on a minute, I need to do something about this. And that's when I started, I actually bumped into a friend who's just moved to Sweden, and he's got a friend of his, or a colleague, who is a Lyme practitioner. And he uses kinesiology, where he sits over your body and he touches you, and it's all a bit slightly cranky. But within 5 minutes, he said to me, I've got Lyme, and he told me what type of Lyme I had, and he said, you got Lyme. I went, after all this time. So
this guy is in Sweden, or is this guy here?
Yeah, he's Swedish, but he was actually over here.
Okay.
So he actually diagnosed. He said, right, you've got Lyme. Right, and Lyme, and we'll go into what Lyme really is, but he said, you got it, no problem at all, and he came up with a potion of a mixture of herbal pills and potions, and that was probably about 3 years ago, and I took that for 2 months. I went and saw him again, and he tested me again, and he said, it's gone. I went, really? He said, this doesn't normally happen, because normally it takes 6 months, but it's gone. As far as I'm concerned, you are clean. I went, wow, isn't that brilliant? So I thought, great. So I was really good. I felt completely different for about 9 months. And then just for a film trip to Croatia, 2 weeks beforehand, suddenly I just dipped, bosh, it came back again. So I thought, oh my goodness. And since then, it keeps on coming back. So whatever he did worked very, very well, but obviously he hasn't got the longevity. He hasn't actually
How long did it last for then?
Lasted 9 months.
So I've taken the plunge, and I've gone for the full blood test.
His next step was a full blood test. Blood taken in the UK went to a lab in Germany. We were there when he got the result back. Something people are not aware of are the co-infections. There can be up to 300 of them.
And within 3 days, I had a complete diagnosis of what was wrong with me. It was facts. It was exactly what it was.
So hold on a second. Why couldn't you have this done in the UK?
So I mentioned about blood tests. In the UK, they have 2 types of blood tests. There's the Western blot test and the ELISA test. And I'm no medical expert, but I'm led to believe there's probably at least 30, if not 50% of people who have these blood tests, the results come back as a false negative. So they're telling you haven't got it, but you have got it. And in some situations, they could be a false positive, but predominantly they are false negatives because the bacteria, the Lyme, is hiding away in the body. So it's very hard to find, and it's very much depends on the mood you're in as well, type of thing. So therefore, these blood tests are probably not worth having in the UK. So I thought, and I knew this, so hence I went to Germany.
It's quite exciting, actually. I just had an email through from a company in Germany who specialise in tick-borne diseases, and they come up with a list of things I should be tested for. And so here's a list. It's quite extensive, but and they just told me that I should have these specific tests. And if I just read them off, they're slightly complicated. So we got Borrelia Elispot, Borrelia Sarispot, CD3 and CD57, whatever that means. But there's other things there, like which is slightly embarrassing on film, but chlamydia, pneumonia, so that's an interesting one. Then we've got mycoplasma, And we got, well, I can't pronounce the rest of that anyway. So also, the last one is Coxsackie virus. So there's about 7 or 8 different blood tests there. So I'm going to take the plunge. Normally, most people just have the top 3, the tier 1, the main disease is tested. But I've decided to go and have them all done because I just want to know what the heck's going on with my body. And I feel that after years and years of suffering from this, I have Lyme disease. But I just want somebody to tell me that I've actually got it, because I've had 2 blood tests in the UK and they've come back as negative.
Knowing what he has is one thing, knowing how to treat it is another. Doctors say antibiotics all the way. That's how survival expert Ray Mears told us he got rid of his chronic Lyme. To get a clinical perspective, last year we went to the British Deer Society AGM to speak to retired cardiac surgeon and outgoing chairman Professor Michael Thick.
Well, I was brought up through the conventional school of medicine, so I have a fairly clear view about alternative medicine, which is that it is not properly evidence-based, that even the NHS has finally said we're not going to pay for that anymore, even though people like it a lot. I agree it's less intrusive, but there's little efficacy in it, and I would seriously recommend that your first line of call ought to be conventional medicine before you think of anything else. Not all ticks are necessarily going to infect you if they bite you. So the story is a little more complex than C. tick must be Borrelia. That's not the case. Nonetheless, you should be very vigilant about the fact that you might be bitten, and if you think you have, or you've got the symptoms that you just can't explain, then go and ask for help. It's perfectly legitimate.
It's about 10 o'clock, just about to go to bed. I've been home since about 6 o'clock, and all I want to do is go to sleep. I've nodded off a few times, but I'm desperately trying to keep myself awake. But once again, I've got a very, very thick head. It's pulsating a wee bit at the moment, so it's been quite a long, tough day actually. And the back of my eyes are aching, but it's just that constant thick head. I've taken a couple of paracetamol things today just to kind of help me through the meetings. But anyway, the problem I have is that I'll just go and lie in bed and I will not be able to sleep. So I read a book for a couple of hours and I eventually will drop off, but it's just annoying that I'm not catching up with my sleep. It's very hard for the doctor to actually know he's got Lyme. I wrote an article, 2 articles in the Rifle Shooter magazine about 6 months ago, and I've had about 6 people ask me to send them the copy of the article to give to their doctor. Tim Pilbeam, he's got it, and see this, I've got that, I've got that, I've got that, I've got that, I've got that. So I want some antibiotics now. The doctor's going, oh, wow, really? Okay. The other problem, which is really, really worrying for a hunter, is if I go into a doctor and say, one minute I feel really, really quite good, I've just run 50 miles and yeah, I just kind of conquered Everest, and next minute I feel quite poor and I don't know what to do and I'm pathetic and all I want to do is sit down, and you say, well, that D word comes up, the depression word comes up. Oh, I think you're depressed. Really? Now, if you're a firearms holder, as soon as that word is mentioned, this is when it gets really quite scary, because the police now are obviously asking for references from your doctor. So on your record, if it mentions that D word, he has to say, well, this chap may have some form of depression. I know it's a more acceptable word, and there's various different types of depression, but you have depression. It's on your FAC licence, and they say, hang on a minute, is this chap, and he'll probably say, yes, he's absolutely fine. So you've got to be a wee bit careful how you approach your doctor, in other words, because you want to say, I think I've got depression, and very often it's actually misdiagnosed as depression. Oh, well, because you're up and down. But in fact, the reason why you're up and down is because you've got Lyme disease.
Just arrived in Brighton to see a Lyme specialist called Judy. I've been speaking to Judy for a few weeks, and I'm really intrigued to actually speak to somebody who really understands what a limey goes through. There's so much there. There's Lyme disease, there's co-infections, there's lots of other things going on if you've got Lyme disease. So I'm really looking forward to speaking to somebody who really knows what they're talking about.
The people that come to you,
Yeah.
is there a typical sign of they have Lyme? You can turn around and say, that person has got Lyme.
I think basically when they come to me and tell me that they have got every symptom under the sun that changes constantly, you know, that is quite typical of Lyme, is that the symptoms will be constantly changing, and that they've tried everything, they've been to every doctor, they've done everything. I can pretty much be sure they've got Lyme disease, or Lyme is playing a part in what's going on with them for sure. So then we generally would send them off for an Almond Labs test, and I think, you know, after I don't know how many I've done, I might have had 2 negatives out of hundreds of positives. So, you know, you can pretty much tell if there's massive fatigue, joint pain that moves around, you know, unexplained rashes that come and go, you know, even psychological things, rages, you know, inexplicable, you know, lows, despair and rages, you know, this terrible nerve pain, because obviously, you know, these infections can affect the nerves and get into the myelin and all the rest of it. They love the central nervous system. So any of those type of symptoms, you know, the burning feet, this is a common one. All these weird symptoms that just change, headaches, you know, you name it. And then, you know, it's not going to be one thing.
You were talking about the testing process, and what was very sobering, what we said before we started the chat, was the fact that so many people are off work because of chronic Lyme, and therefore the tests are very expensive, and then for them to actually afford them is problematic. What is the simplest and cheapest route to actually find out whether you've got chronic Lyme, you're suffering from Lyme?
Well, you know, many people, they want to see something in black and white. They want a piece of paper that will say, you know, you have got these bacteria. And that's what they want to see. And, you know, there are labs, quite reliable labs in Germany that can do these tests. And largely where people request them, that's what we do. But Dr. Dietrich Klinghardt, he uses autonomic response testing. And this is a way of using the person's muscle testing, which you do through an intermediate person. And you can actually test them to whether they've got Lyme and co-infections, and you can actually find where in the body these infections are. And that's actually probably the cheapest way you're ever going to do a Lyme test. I've actually moved into that realm. I've started up a practice with my colleague, and we do this ART testing now, because it just saves, you know, a lot of money for the clients, because we can test everything within the consultation. But if people want to see it in black and white, then there's nowhere in the NHS, because the current tests that they do over here, tests for an antibody response. And the first thing the Lyme does is knock out the antibody response.
How desperate are people when they come to see you?
They're pretty desperate. You know, shame, you know, some of these people, they've spent thousands of pounds. They've travelled the world. They have done so much to try and get well. You know, it's very, very sad to see in a lot of cases. They are pretty desperate, you know, and they just want their health back. They just want to get back to work. They just want to have a normal life. And, you know, the crippling fatigue that comes with these infections, you know, is just terrible.
I thought I knew a lot about Lyme, but there's so much more out there. And I think that, to me, it does affect so many different people. I wasn't aware that the people in the street, the people in towns are affected with Lyme. I don't know why, there's no reasoning behind it. It's not just the dog walkers, it's not just the hunters like myself. It's affecting so many more people. And I think the biggest takeaway for me personally, where I've been fighting it, and I've resigned my life that I'm going to be feeling pretty miserable for the rest of my life, and all I'm doing is trying to find something which I can manage the symptoms, the disease. In fact, there's actually some things out there I could do an awful lot more. So I'm going to investigate Lyme disease a bit more, and hopefully find something which will actually just allow me to have a better quality of life going into the future.
The following week, Judy starts Tim's treatment. It's called Autonomic Response Testing, or ART, that uses what's called applied kinesiology. This is backed up with a host of supplements and a lactose, gluten and alcohol-free diet. It looks unorthodox, but when people are having ozone and stem cell treatment, this is relatively cheap, accessible, and most importantly, Tim has faith.
I could become a monk in about 2 months' time. I like my beer. I love my bread. I love my butter.
So look, you can rock that look.
Do you think so? So that could. I mean, I've got friends who have done that. They've gone down the route. No sugar, no alcohol, no gluten. The whole works because they said I've got to try something to stop this flipping disease. And if I feel better for the sake of not having those, so be it. And I could well be in that situation. I didn't care because I'm not going to carry on my rest of my life feeling like this. It's not going to work. I can't keep on masking it. So that's how it is.
Lyme disease shows itself in many ways. It may never show itself at all, but there are triggers, stress being the big one. The best thing, of course, is prevention. Check yourself and know how to remove a tick if you find one. In the description below this film, we've added some useful links that may help. Please look out for our new podcast, which will include all of Tim's and Judy's interview.
I'm so hungry, I'm so thirsty, haven't drunk anything for about 4 hours. We need to get home and have a beer. Way.
Thank you, Tim. And as we mentioned, Tim has put his Lyme disease journey in the description below. Plus, there's a podcast coming out about it soon with Tim. Now, good to see so many of you at the British Shooting Show. And as many of you pointed out, perhaps I do need to go easier on that sensitive little flower who sits on the Fieldsports Channel News Stump. Well, why should I, when we've got this lot?
In his usual, this is Fieldsports Channel News. China has legalised pheasant shooting. Environment Minister Wen Hung-lo says pheasant shooting will commence in the province of Hou Flu Dong.
Who flung dung?
Who flung dung?
China has legalised pheasant shooting. Environment Minister Wen Hung-lo says pheasant shooting will commence in the province of Hou flung dung.
Wales is well known for long-range shooting, and there's a new range going into the hills around subtitles.
Lanfair Gilly Goggery William.
Unfair Pilwell Wing Gil Goggery He Wing Rob Willand Salo Gog.
The longest name in the country.
One Lum. Jack Garner from Devon. I like Fieldsports because there's good stories and facts.
Hi, my name's Ellie and I'm stalking for stories, fishing for facts. My favourite people on the show is Charlie.
That's it? No one else?
I love the news.
No, it looks like I'm telling you to say that.
And David.
Okay.
Hello, my name is Scarlett and I am 8 years old and my favourite bit of Fieldsports Channel is the news.
Hi, I'm Thomas King and I'm stalking for stories and fishing for facts.
Hello, my name's Ryan.
My name's Charlie Walker and I'm 8 years old and I'm stalking for stories and fishing for facts.
I'm Jamie Chandler. I'm stalking for stories and fishing for facts.
A woman from the US reacted vigorously to a snake on a dance floor. That Samba Mama from Alabama slammed the black mamba.
That Samba Mama from Alabama slammed the black mamba.
Samba Mama from Alabama slammed the black mamba.
Stalking the stories, fishing for facts.
Stalking the stories, fishing for facts.
Stalking for stories, fishing for facts.
Stalking for stories, fishing for facts.
Stalking the stories and fishing the facts.
This has been Finn Morton for Fieldsports Channel News. I'm nervous and I'm shaking. Stalking the stories, fishing for facts.
Fieldsports got talent, as they say in showbiz. We'll be in touch. In the meantime, we're stuck with the usual bloke. It is David on the Fieldsports Channel News Stump.
This is Fieldsports Channel News. Please keep a lookout for our Danish correspondent Jens Ulrik Hogh, as he'll be appearing on ITV's This Morning programme on Friday the 23rd of February 2019. Jens is Danish and scored a hit for hunters on a Danish national TV station recently. He appeared on the show to discuss news that an American paid a record $110,000 to shoot a Hogh antelope, a species that has only survived thanks to the money from hunting. The hope is that Jens will do the same with the anti-hunting presenting team on This Morning. It's 11 months until Boxing Day, but already the annual Boxing Day hunt meets are under threat from animal rights activists. Antis are lobbying local councils, trying to persuade them that large numbers of hounds and horses, alongside crowds of supporters, poses a health and safety risk. The Countryside Alliance is fighting back. Click on the link on the screen to send a letter to your local council leader, expressing your support for Boxing Day meets, continuing in the heart of your community. Your letter will help support those councils that allow hunt meets. Where local newspapers used to post the details of hunt balls and hunt meets, they now post details of anti-hunt demonstrations. This, from the Hastings Independent Press in the south of England, is a call to demonstrate at the East Sussex and Romney Marsh Hunt Ball on the 23rd of February, asking balaclava saboteurs to assemble at the hotel where the hunt is holding its annual party. Thanks to Steve Kearney for sending it in. Where one newspaper is resolutely anti-hunting, the other supports it. The Hastings and St Leonard's Observer ran an article about how kids at a local school had a lesson in cooking pheasant. They took part in the Game Changer, an initiative from the Food Teachers Centre. Thanks again to Steve Kearney. A Cornish youngster has won the John Newton Memorial Trophy for Young Shooters. Denzel Gross will be presented with the trophy on the 28th of February in Dorchester. Viewers of BBC's flagship rural programme Countryfile were surprised when an item on poaching with lurchers was mistakenly called coursing and ended up as a lead item on the BBC News website. It led to videos of illegal dog work being taken down on YouTube and Facebook, and at least the item was more balanced than the Irish National Broadcaster's piece on RTE1's farming programme Ear to the Ground. It called anyone who shoots or uses a lamp a criminal, and added that a 243 rifle is a typical poacher's gun. Thanks to Ken Hall for sending this in. And finally, two of Sweden's biggest food companies have pulled out of a vegetarian food fair. The decision by ICA and Axfood follows news that volunteers at Vigo Mässen, Sweden's largest vegetarian food fair, had connections to the country's Animal Liberation Front, which has set fire to farm buildings and threatened farmers' children. Thanks to Per Holmseth for sending in the story. You are now up to date with Fieldsports Channel News. Stuck in the stories, fishing for facts.
Thank you, David. Now, a quick one before we go pigeon shooting. I got 2 emails in quick succession last week, which simply said in the subject line, "Show Crow," and contained some images of what looked like forestry. Well, luckily, happily, the man behind those emails, Jim Mayer, turned up at the British Shooting Show and explained to me what's going on.
Yeah, the first picture is the quad bike.
Yep.
Obviously with my dog in the back, so I can go to wherever I want to and just back into the hedgerow. And then on each corner of the quad bike and at the back, I've put some down pipes so I can just insert some lofting poles, or these are actually washing line poles, and put 2 at the back of the quad bike really high for your backdrop, put them on the corners, and then just simply wrap your camo net all the way around, and that's the look from inside the quad. So I'm sitting comfortably. I've got everything in there I need, my cartridges in the front, my gun across the front. I've even got the electric if I need it to boil a kettle. You know, we've
magic.
It's comfort, and obviously each time you're looking through the net of the hide, when the pigeon's coming over your decoys, it's just a matter of stepping up off of your seat, take the shot and sit back down again.
So Jim, from the moment you're driving along and seeing the pigeons to setting up and being ready to shoot, how long does that take you?
15 minutes.
Marvellous. Thank you very much, Jim. Now, Cirencester students don't just make great farmers. One of them's going to make a great filmmaker too. Here she is, filming the boys going pigeon shooting. When you're out pigeon shooting, you're always on edge, always looking around.
Yeah, it's starting to go in a bit more now, aren't they? Yeah, wind's died down.
We're out with the shooting team from the Royal Agricultural University Cirencester. Now, Cirencester strikes fear into the hearts of university clay shots everywhere. The RAU shooting team are normally out scaring the competition at playgrounds. Today, they've got their beads on real birds, pigeon shooting on a lecturer's ground near the Gloucestershire village of Birdlip.
We've shot quite a few pigeons out of here already, but they're doing a fair bit of damage to his crops, so he's asked us to come here and protect them basically. So yeah, we've assembled a pretty decent team, so we're going to have a go. Not great weather today, there's not a lot of wind, sunny as well, so it'll be pretty challenging, but we know where they're going into, we know they're coming from, so hopefully we'll do our best to get a few.
The RAU shooting team finds university clay competitions easier than these pigeons.
Here at the RAU we have about 60 students every year who join the shooting team. We travel up and down the country shooting competitions from St Andrews down to Monmouthshire, over to Oxford. We really travel all around. Though we shoot clays at the university, we've got a lot of game shots in the team, which makes us brilliant on flush. So our shooting competition in Oxford a couple of months ago, we actually managed to get 75 out of 75.
Back to the pigeons, and Beau the Labrador has had some work, but numbers are starting to slow. Peter moves the guns to where the pigeons roost overnight.
Alright Pete, you go halfway up.
Yeah.
Charles, you get in the bottom bit here. That flight line's coming in that way. Stand this way, facing towards the wind, so landing that way. Alright, let's go.
It's now a waiting game. Peter has put out his teammates directly under the flight line. He explains why the pigeons are drawn to this wood.
So there's a field of Horsey rape just over the top there, about 200 feet back. We're feeding on that in the day, and this is the main wood that came back onto. It's not quite February yet, the groups are still quite big, so we've still got big groups coming in, not split off into 3s and 4s, so you get one coming in about every 10 minutes. We're trying to pick off the low birds that come to land in these top trees here, because it's obviously a safer, easier shot to dispatch them quicker. You get the odd 1s and 2s because the main flight line, because this belt of wood goes all the way down, about 200 feet as well. So we've got another 2 blokes standing halfway and then right at the end. Woohoo! We've got fir trees just to the left there, and they provide great cover for the pigeons to get into, also shelter out the wind, because normally the prevailing wind, the easterly wind as well at the minute, which it is coming down across. The pigeons get a lot of shelter in there, so that's what we want to be tonight. They'll be coming into us because this wind is coming down like that, so they'll be flying in and landing in these trees here, so hopefully get a few shots straight in front. So we're about 45 minutes in now, starting to get a little bit darker. Wind's actually picked up a little bit. They're looking a bit more promising. We've shot 3 down this end, and the boys down that end have shot 4.
Okay.
How are you getting on, George?
Yeah, we're getting on alright actually. Shot 5 now, but slowly getting.
Yeah, I'm sure you did. Well done.
Could pick up a bit.
I shot a cracker to be fair. Pete shot a cracker. Yeah, shot a cracker. He's had about 40 shots though, so 40 to 1's not bad, Pete.
It's been a wonderful day with 15 in the bag.
A lot of shots, but we had fun anyway. Been sunny, there's been no wind, so it's been difficult to predict where to stand really. So we haven't been able to get as many in the bag as we thought we would. But it's still a great day, and we'll catch up with them another week.
Most birds have got all term so far, but we're now pretty cold. It's chilly today, so we're going to go off to the pub.
For more about the RAU shooting team, follow at RAU Shooting on Instagram and Twitter. Thank you, Olivia Rose and the RAU shooting team. Now from Gloucestershire to the wider world of hunting and shooting on YouTube, it is Hunting YouTube. This is Hunting YouTube, which aims to show the best hunting and shooting videos that YouTube has to offer. Dave Carey's French adventure is out, including our own Andy Crow, and Dave's virtual son-in-law Mark Windsor. They're after wild boar and pheasant in France. In Spain, Antonio Galeano covers the Montero Los Boquerones in Cordoba. Your Spanish needs to be up to it, but you will get a good sense of what a Spanish-driven hunt is like. Yacht Total is after roe in this film with Udo Volkenand in the mountains of Thuringia. Meanwhile, in the mountains of the Witmus Kloof Conservancy in South Africa, Matt Dubra from Air Arms Hunting SA and Claudio Flores from the Patagonia Airguns Chile channel are shooting dassies with PCPs. Bow hunter and viewer Aidan Doomtsis gets in touch about his new film. It's a trailer for an upcoming video about bow hunting water buffalo in Arnhem Land in the Northern Territory. Ulrich Orskoff has asked me to remind you that voting is still open in the Monocular Video Awards, including for his video. Go to themonocular.com for details. For French fox hunting and a rather fabulous vegan-turned hunter, not in this film, visit Venery TV. This is fox hunting with the Arduiné. And finally, I am putting in this film because it's nice about us. The Gun Shop at Botley in Hampshire is one of the biggest gun shop YouTube channels in the world. Thank you very much. That's it for this week. I've put all these films into a playlist for you. Click on the I symbol top right or check this film's description. If you have a YouTube film you would like us to pop into the weekly top 8, email me the link charlie@fieldsportschannel.tv. Well, that's it for this week. If you haven't done so already, please pop over to our website, where as well as the usual, you can see our British Shooting Show 2019 page with lots of videos from our stage. And you can click to like us on Facebook, on Instagram, follow us on Twitter, subscribe to us on YouTube, pop your email address into our register page and we'll contact you about this show. Field Sports Britain is at 7 PM UK time every Wednesday. Plus, you can back us, as many of you did, at the British Shooting Show, for which many thanks. Go to fieldsportschannel.tv/shares to find out about that. I'll see you next week. Good hunting, good shooting, good fishing, and goodbye.